This week in Jamaica Now, we care. Government lawyers say they are pushing for a retrial because Vybz Kartel can get to clear his name. Father and two sons shot dead in Hanover. The PNP distances itself from tax increase proposal from Damion Crawford. And the first female Speaker of the House of Representatives, Violet Neilson, has died. I'm Jovan Johnson and this is Jamaica Now. The prosecution says it is pushing for a retrial so Vybz Kartel and the other three accused men can be tried for murder on the merits of the case. Prosecutor Lorian Tugwell told the Court of Appeal on Friday it is because the state cares about the constitutional rights of the men that the prosecution wants the case against them to be tried on its merits and not determined on technical issues. Kartel, whose given name is Adijah Palmer, Sean Storm Campbell, Kahira Jones and Andre St. John, were all handed life sentences in April 2014 for the 2011 murder of Clive Lizard Williams. However, on March 14 this year, the United Kingdom-based Privy Council overturned the convictions on grounds of juror misconduct. The Privy Council, Jamaica's highest court, did not comment on the evidence in the case. Ms. Tugwell says acquittal or dismissal of the case should be the last resort and done in extremely exceptional cases where it is not possible for a fair trial. She said that does not occur in this instance. Ms. Tugwell conceded that the rights of the men to a fair trial in a reasonable time have been breached but insisted it was justified. The defense team has argued that a retrial would not be fair given the length of time that the matter has been before the courts. Attorney John Clark, who presented most of the arguments for the defense, said the widespread publicity has thwarted any hopes of a fair and impartial jury being selected. The defense has also argued that Kartel's health is deteriorating, with his heart at less than 50% of functionality. But the prosecution has insisted that safeguards are in the system to ensure a fair retrial, and taxpayers will just have to bear the cost of any retrial. June 18 has been set for the Court of Appeal to complete the hearing of arguments in Jamaica Labour Party leader and Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the party's supporters are to see a different approach in its organisation and communication following the local government elections in February. He also says the performance of JLP representatives, party structures and workers are being reviewed. He made the announcement at a party meeting on June 9 in St. Andrew East Rural.
We have been the government for going more than 8 years now. And in any institution, you must take the time after 8 years to review it, to look at what you are doing well, what you are not doing so well, what has changed in the environment, and what are the opportunities that exist, and what are the strategic approaches that you must take. So any good organization does that, and your party is doing that. The party is also looking at the performance of all its representatives, every single representative. We can't take it for granted that because somebody looks good on paper, that they are good on the ground. We can't take it for granted that because somebody have a brand name, you take it and say, well, that the man, they must good. No. We're going to be very scientific, very strategic in our approach.
The People's National Party PNP says Senator Damion Crawford's suggestion for an increase in the General Consumption Tax GCT to fund education does not represent the party's position. The opposition party's clarification follows criticisms from the ruling Jamaica Labour Party JLP, which has urged Jamaicans to pay attention to the potential for new taxes under any future PNP administration. At an event for high school principals last week, Mr. Crawford, who is the PNP's spokesman on education, said a 1 percentage point increase in GCT would yield $25 billion in revenue. But the PNP says Mr. Crawford's comments were made in the context of exploring different ideas and were not a reflection of official party position. It says the government's tax intake has increased year after year at rates significantly exceeding inflation, and that makes any tax increases unnecessary. JLP Deputy General Secretary Richard Creary has criticized Crawford and the PNP over the proposal. Meanwhile, opposition leader Mark Golding says he has instructed his lawyers to file a lawsuit against Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives Heroy Clark for comments he reportedly made about Mr. Golding's relationship with his wife Sandra. The alleged defamatory comments are said to have been made in a WhatsApp group which had approximately 300 members. In a June 7 letter to Mr. Clark, Golding's attorneys from the law firm Hart, Muirhead Fatta made several demands they wanted met by June 10. Among other things, Mr. Clark was told to agree to provide a full and unreserved written apology to Mr. Golding and to enter into discussions to pay damages for the alleged defamation. The lawyers said if Mr. Clark did not respond by June 10, they would proceed with the matter. The lawyers said the comments were false and have damaged Mr. Golding's character and brought him into public scandal. Dozens of commuters were left stranded Monday as some transport operators across the island withdrew their services to protest the implementation of the automatic suspension of driver's licenses, which accumulated 10 demerit points. Transport Minister Vybz suggested that the protest may have been politically motivated because the government had been in talks with the operators over their concerns with the regulatory regime under the new Road Traffic Act.
There was no necessity for what took place yesterday. It's a lack of communication between the transport operators and organizations and their membership, along with some people using it for political motives and for mischief and illegal activities. There was no winner yesterday. Jamaica lost. The taxi operators that withdrew their service lost. They didn't earn $1 for yesterday.
The Transport Authority said a meeting was held on June 11, which was pre-scheduled. That meeting involved the Transport Authority, Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Island Traffic Authority, members of the Public Transport Operators Steering Committee, and representatives from at least 8 transport lobby groups. The Transport Authority said more meetings are planned, but recommendations from the latest talks will be reviewed under the current revision of the Road Traffic Act. It says the process is expected to be completed in June. Meanwhile, Transport Minister Vybz says no ban is currently in place on rideshare applications amid the refusal of local telecommunications companies to block the applications. Mr. Vybz wrote to Flow and Digicel Jamaica on June 4, directing them to block all ride-sharing applications. But in a statement on June 14, Mr. Vybz said while not objecting to the ban, one of the companies has requested information on the legal authority to implement the ban. He says the other company, which he did not name, has not responded. The ban on services such as InDrive and Uber was announced following the suspected murder of 29-year-old teacher Daniel Langlin.
I feel very strongly that any minister of government who sees or deems an issue as a national security risk, that legislation should be in place and it should be clear and definitive that it is an instruction and an order, not a request. And I will be moving to have discussions with the Minister of National Security and my cabinet to make sure that this is done in the shortest possible time.
The government says it strongly condemns the recent threats against Television Jamaica TVJ journalist Giovanni Dennis over his report on illegal drag racing in Jamaica. Part 1 of Mr. Dennis's report was aired on June 9 during TVJ's primetime news. The government says the security forces are investigating the threats and will take the actions to bring those responsible to justice. It says acts of intimidation and threats to use violence are reprehensible and are in fact an attack on press freedom and Jamaica's democracy at large. Meanwhile, the Press Association of Jamaica and the Media Association of Jamaica have condemned the threats. The first female Speaker of Jamaica's House of Representatives, Violet Neilson, hailed as a stalwart of local politics, died on June 11. She was 92. Speaker Juliet Holness announced the news to lawmakers just before the House adjourned its sitting on Tuesday evening. She said a tribute will be arranged. Ms. Neilson served as the MP for St. James East Central and was Speaker from 1997 to 2003. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson and the PNP, of which she was a member, have hailed her as a social justice advocate and exemplary politician. And Beverly Hall Allain, linguist and a former executive director of the Institute of Jamaica, IOJ, noted for her work on African-Jamaican culture, has died. She served as head of the IOJ, Jamaica's premier cultural agency from 1985 to 1993, and later on worked at Air Jamaica, where she's credited with the increased hiring of black Jamaicans. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on a notification, and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, we're taking some scenes from the funeral of Councillor Ricardo Fairclough, who was shot and killed in St. Anne while he assisted a woman who was being robbed.
He was only 44 years old when he was killed in the process of saving the life of a vendor on Monday, April 15, This heroic act will forever be remembered. Also, a footnote, Josette's wife would like you to also to know that he graduated in March as an evangelist.
God is mostly glorified in us when we are most satisfied in Him. I use that as a quote to start the tribute on behalf of over 12,000 rank and file members across the length and breadth of Jamaica. It strongly exemplifies our dearly departed brother, the late Constable Ricardo Nicholas Fairclough, aka Pari, aka Great Deacon, aka Monaghan, aka Prayer Warrior, aka Mother Spirit, aka Amen Friend Fighter. When gunmen kill any agent of the state, it can't be business as usual. We must unite as police and citizens. No criminal element must feel that the killer police that is a holiday for you. I am happy our commissioner is here. Dr. Blake, I stand as the new leader for the Police Federation to let you know, sir, we're ready to walk in the trenches and the gutters. We're ready to take the guns out of the road. We're ready to turn in the criminal evidence. Because, let me tell you something, citizens of Jamaica, we are under crisis, we are under crisis.